Collective Awakening podcast,
sharing truth and knowledge in this time of conscious awakening
with Chris and Stephen.
Hi everybody, it's absolutely amazing that I'm able to introduce our podcast for today. Chris has allowed me to hold the fort and to introduce a wonderful guest that I met and this wonderful spirit, beautiful soul, Pauline, that I met at a mind, body and spirit event, and she did an amazing aura reading on me, and she gave me some fabulous knowledge and guidance that has really resonated with me. And I thought, this is going to be amazing podcast. This is a really interesting lady that we can really delve into some fantastic knowledge. So wherever you're listening, welcome to the Collective Awakening podcast. Hi Pauline, hope you're all right. Thank you for joining us.
I am very fine, thank you, and I'm delighted to be joining you both.
Amazing. And the wonderful co-host, Chris Stevenson. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm exciting for what's going to be, I'm sure, a very nourishing conversation and chat today, as always.
Amazing. Yeah, so Pauline, we all have to start our podcast off by asking, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into your spiritual work. And I find that the stories will resonate with a lot of people that will listen.
I think I want to just talk about the last part of my journey, because up to 21 years ago, I was doing an awful lot of work with alternative therapies. I was doing channeling. I was even doing such things as mediumship and tarot card readings. But most importantly, what made me stop for 20 years is the fact that people were then putting a label on me. And the label was that I was a clairvoyant, which is not the reason that we came on earth to be. We have a soul purpose. You don't have to believe this, but I believe that everybody actually comes with a purpose that they agreed to before their soul actually arrived inside the physical body that they now have. So taking it from there, rather than going back into the past too far, I had to pull back, because my purpose to make my soul satisfied, which is the aim of everybody, we really need to make our soul satisfied. And to get to that point, I had to take a break so that I wouldn't be classed in the same way, say, there's Uri Geller with his spoons and his clocks. Bless him, when he wanted to come away from that, wherever he goes, someone asks him about the spoons and the clocks. And I didn't want to get into that situation, knowing that my job, if I believe I have got a spiritual job, is to remove fear from people, is to get them to be able to access their own I am power. I believe that in the center of every one of us and every living thing, we have got a place that is so small we can't ever see it. But it's a paradox, because in that place that we can't see and that is actually a nothingness is in fact the place that contains everything, all knowledge of all creation, past, present, and destined future. I add the word destined because the future can be manipulated in many different ways. But if the soul has a destined future, or if our lovely planet has a destined future, which it does, or even the solar system itself, then what we need is to know how to work to the future that is within us, because we can be a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle, if you like, a little tiny bit like one of those jigsaw puzzles. We are all little pieces of that. And in our soul, we have got something that keeps on pushing us and prodding us and making us go further and further so that we will fulfill our soul's purpose. I also want to say there's always a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we are seeing an awful lot of wonderful souls moving on because they have fulfilled their work. And this is applying to everybody. So what I would like to do, if I can, is to sort of say to you, in the center of your soul, in that place where there is stillness that lies behind the silence, that is where you have your I am power, and everybody can access it. And that's my job. My job is to help people to lose their fear, to lose their, if you like, reliance on other people, but at the same time knowing they desperately need them for support because we cannot do without them. But what we can do is use what I call the seventh sense. That's that place of nothingness. And then use our sixth sense, which is all the information coming through the third eye, as confirmation. So if we can get the information from our soul's enormous library of knowledge, we can then use our beautiful connection to all this other stuff that we've been working with and bringing our sort of spiritual journey, if you like, and make that something that we can use to support, to enrich. And because we're human, come on, we're going to question. Then we use that area to give us confirmation that what we are sensing, our seventh sense, is right. Because unfortunately, nobody else but us can feel that sensing and that power. It's our own. It's our very own. And so we do need the support of everything else in order to help us to have that confirmation that we're on the right path.
Yeah, so many people as well. Me and Chris were talking about this quite in depth these past few weeks and these past few months. And we run a health and wellbeing centre, and we lots of amazing souls come to visit us and attracted to come there. And a lot of people are searching, aren't they, for their divine purpose. A lot of people ask us, what is my purpose? What am I doing here on the earth? So what kind of advisement would you give somebody now listening to the podcast that are searching for their purpose? What kind of things should they be doing? Should they be meditating? Well, how can you find your divine purpose, in your opinion,
Right.
Pauline?
Let's take a deep breath. Because what I believe very strongly is that the soul does not enter the fetus, the physical form that's in our mother's womb initially. It takes 3.5 months or so. And so many midwives will confirm that there is a change in any pregnant woman who then has the soul popping into the form, the physical form that's in their womb. There is a change. So there's two things here. Prior to us going on our soul journey and finding out what that is, we've also inherited all the memories of everything along the bloodline of the biological father and the biological mother. And it's when the egg and the sperm fuse for the first time, those memories, good and bad, go into that one cell, which then gets reproduced right until, and still being reproduced now. It never changes. So we have the influence of all that our biological parents have given us. We, when we go on a spiritual journey, forget all about that. And we just follow what our soul is wanting us to do. So I think the first thing we have to do is make sure that we're not reacting, if you like, to the information that our biological parents have given us, good and bad. when they started making a shape in which our soul can come, because without that soul and without that shape, we wouldn't be here. And you very often hear a lot of people who are on a soul journey, and they will say to me, but I've done everything. Yes, they have, to a point. What they haven't done is clear their reaction to what was given to them within the cell structure of the biological father and the biological mother. So first of all, it needs making sure that you're not using their knowledge and their information alone, that you're using it as backup. And where it's been good information, you jolly well take it on and use it. It's only that is pulling you back or holding you back that makes it difficult for you to go forward. And many times I hear this, but I've done it all. Yes, you have. But you need to be able to access and trust your own I am power. And that's a bit of a trust. And then there is the downside to trusting it, really, because if you've got any kind of ego in you that you've inherited, then you see that everything is happening exactly as it should do. And therefore you then realize, oh, I can do this, I can do that for them, I can do the other. And the ego goes in. So you do really need to be very humble. I have said before that there are 7, and this is where I think people need to go in order to find their purpose in this lifetime. There are 7 cosmic laws, beautiful cosmic laws, and the first one is the worst one to be able to get a grasp of. It's called the law of free choice. Everybody has the right to be themselves. Everybody has that choice. Everybody knows that nobody living can possibly know who you are completely, because you're the only person that's lived every single day with yourself. Nobody has had the feelings, nobody's had the experiences, so nobody can really know you except you. That's very good. But with the law of free choice, you then also have to be very careful that every single other person has got that free choice. And every other single person must be respected with humility and trust. And we cannot just jump in to help them, even if we know we can. We cannot just jump in and say, oh, I know that, because maybe you do, but it could be slightly different for the person you think. So in order to help anybody, you have to be able to do the one thing that is hard, actually, for a human being, I must admit. You have to be asked. If you're not asked to help, then you are breaking this first law, because you are trespassing into their space, into their ideas, and you are then not being yourself and true to yourself. So to me, the first law, the law of free choice, is the hardest one to actually fulfill. But then what happens is we then get, which is the next law, the law of cause and effect. And that, I believe, Stephen, is what you got from that little book, because the book Think Right actually allows you or tells you how you need to think so that you can manifest what your soul needs. Let's forget the rest. But you can manifest what your soul needs when you actually think in the right way. And so we've got the book, Think Right. We've also got another one for people who are very emotionally attached to things. We've got another one called Stress Free. They're very cheap. So those are available at any time. I also have a place where I can do something that is hard to say this one, Steve, because Stephen, you know that I can sense in a way that is unusual. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
And it's that ability that my beautiful soul, the reason for coming and using the seventh sense and going and working with the future, it's that ability that allows me to talk to people on a one-to-one. It can only ever be done twice, one for each biological parent. You can't do it twice. Because if you are going to remove the adverse energies from one of your parents, then you only want that removing once. If you try to do it twice, then you're going to make it all go out of balance again. So that doesn't work. All right. So I do this clearing of inherited memories, which is not the DNA therapy. It is very different. That's why it can only be done once. So that's one thing. But I think those two books, I think knowing and understanding what the seven laws, the seven cosmic laws are, and working through them, because that's another beautiful thing about the universe. They actually make it possible for you to not have too much information too soon. Then you don't break the laws. So once you begin to understand what's involved in the law of free choice, then you get the law of cause and effect, which immediately comes to the one we all hate, the law of paradox. When we do this, the other thing happens. And when we do that, the other thing happens. That's the third law. But the beauty of the law of paradox, once we get through it, is we're immediately into the law of manifestation. And to be perfectly honest, I can see that is happening with Earth. I can see it happening with the world. I can see it happening with nature. And so many people, they are now not wanting to destroy. They are wanting to help to produce a world that is full of peace and harmony. And of course, I've said this before, it's like throwing a ball up into the air. Before it can come down, it has to pause. And at the moment, we are beyond the absolute pause. I can see it beginning to drop. And because we're now seeing it drop, it hasn't dropped, but it's on its way. And I would think by the end of 2025, we will see a whole new difference of what is happening around the world, but in a positive way rather than just a negative way.
Absolutely incredible and so interesting so far. And I feel not only, Pauline, as you're talking from your heart and from your knowledge, that it's very relevant actually to what I've been experiencing, or Stephen has lately, what's kind of been unraveling in a lot of people's journeys. What stood out to me that I can really resonate with is when you talked about labels early on. And I actually found this with some of the one-to-one readings I do, that I felt from spirit. I didn't want to be put in a certain label. I didn't want to be pigeonholed. It was very important to work in a unique way that was authentic to my soul and to those ancestors, guides that were working and guiding me. So I feel that's really important for everybody to hear that out there as well. And
Good.
that's, yeah, and it can take bravery as well. It needs bravery to don't be afraid to be unique. And I actually mentioned this last night, one of the first circles we ever sat in, and there was about 10 of us in the circle. And the lady who guided the circle said, if 9 people are sensing one thing and one person out of the 10 is sensing something different, it doesn't mean the one person is wrong.
Totally.
And I think that is so important. But as we move forward with this wonderful chat, I would really love to know the moments that you had. A lot of people call them awakening moments. The moments when this knowledge sort of opened up to you, and you started to align with your I am energy and this knowledge that you're sharing. that moment when it came to you, when
Okay, Chris,
you remember it?
I think there, because I'm going towards the end rather than the beginning, I really had this, I think from the age of 3, 2, 3, because I was being a concert pianist at the age of 4. Now that didn't come from learning from someone else. It had to come from myself. So looking backwards, I can go through my life and see dozens and dozens and dozens of things that I've been able to do that actually was soul prompted. But there was one point when I could easily have, well, there's 2 points when I could have given up. One was when I was on the streets with my 3 children. I should have been better than that in my head because I'm human. But yet I needed to know, because how could I help people who had been on the streets if I didn't know what it was like? And I can go through my life and it's got kind of small pictures of events, very, very many, far more than most people get. But then I am, as I've said before, a dinosaur. I'm not young. So therefore, we can actually look back and I can see the pattern all the way through of all these unusual incidences. One where I was invited, I have no money at all, but I was invited to take part and all my expenses were paid, to Alaska. And then I stood on the top of a mountain that was just beginning to emerge. The first time a glacier had stopped running. We can see it more now, but at that time it was quite new. And it's the same too with going to Moscow, where you're met with someone who's saying, oh, you're so brave to come. Because it was just at the time as Gorbachev was taking over, and there were the tanks in the street. And really, that was another experience, because how would I know what it's like to be in war, sort of a war situation? But that's the nearest I've been. But I had that pain. I had those people that were translating for me and everything else. And I went to the hospital where the nuclear power had gone off, and I was there with those people who were suffering from the burns of radiation, helping them out with the healing situation. So again, all the way through, finding one place, I'm not sure. But I do think that what happens is, as you become to trust more and more your own understanding and connection with God in you, if you like, your divine spark, what is really important to drive you on, your soul's purpose, if you like. Once you connect with that more and more, your reaction becomes one of responding to, with using the cosmic laws. And the day that I was attacked, in theory, on Broadway in New York with a poor soul who was obviously totally desperate for drugs and had no money. And he tried to get some, and the knife was coming towards me. Fortunately, I was British in that instance, because I could say to him, I am so sorry. Nobody had apologized to him. I was smiling at him. Nobody was smiled at him. And I, in a very, very British accent, which he wasn't used to, told him that I was so very sorry. And then he stopped. He couldn't hit me because I had got my angel guides in my aura. They were guiding me. I had got my response, which was from my heart and my soul. But as soon as he dropped and looked puzzled, I was off. I was down to 6th Avenue very quickly. So I went to my person. So that's another one of the ones that just reminded me that as long as I did what I had to do for the sake of my reason for being on earth at this moment in time, all will be well. All will be well. So all I can say is keep doing when you are wondering what your journey is. Don't give up. Please don't give up. Find help. The 2 little books are very useful. The cosmic laws are very useful. But more importantly, I love what you were doing. You are doing this meeting and group meeting, and you are being respectful and honest within the group so that no one person can be any different than the rest. They all have it, but in different degrees. So being on the streets was just another of those little micro pieces of my personal puzzle.
Yeah. Do you feel then, Pauline, that within our life journey, that our actual viewpoint of those experiences are important and vital? The way
Vital.
yeah.
Vital. I had to stop you there because they're just vital. They are. And the point is, you will reach a place, and obviously in your circle, in your group, you have, where if you were to take a deep breath and start looking back at just one instance in their lives, everybody, they would discover even if it was bad at the time, like it was bad when I was on the streets with the children, even if it was bad at the time, I honestly couldn't do what I'm doing now without it. So yes, sometimes, although I do actually suggest people don't go into their past and get caught in it. It's different. It's rather like looking at a video. Don't do it and get hooked into it, but just look at it as a video, part of your life as a video, and you will see that it has enhanced where you are now. I think that's the important thing. You use it as an enhancement, but everybody's journey is different, and you can only follow your own journey.
Pauline, I find that so nourishing what you're saying there, and it's something that I've really come to accept these past 5 to 10 years, is that when you truly accept that everything is for your benefit, so when you look at the universe and spirit, everybody is your teacher, every experience is, no matter how we perceive it, is for our growth and our learning. I have this overwhelming feeling of deep gratitude, not only to myself but to the universe, that even through the times of darkness, the times where, with my childhood, I was abused and stuff, I can now look back to my life as an observer with such gratitude and understanding and forgiveness, that really my life has been part of a great initiation, gaining the empathy and the understanding that every experience. So, and I find that people that are in service to spirit have gone through some kind of initiation, because when people come to see me for readings, for example, or healing, I vibrate at a frequency sort of on a conscious and unconscious level. So people are are drawn to you. So therefore there can't be jealousy. We all doing our work in our own way. And I think that's anybody listening to the podcast, just learn to be an observer. So I think you're absolutely right. You can get caught up into the past, but the past is gone. See as an observer, see as a learner. But I want to ask you, Pauline, about intuition. Now, where does intuition come from? Because something that I've really come to learn in my life, in this incarnation, is you trusting and using my intuition. Does that come from the I am power? Is that something physical or spiritual?
I'm going to actually do this on 3 levels. The first one is, yes, it comes from your gut reaction, which God loves the universe at the moment, and the television and all the other social media. More and more people are talking about their gut reaction and saying they're trusting it. The gut reaction is the 7th sense. It is that little place. It's not quite where I talked about it in the first. It's more likely the soul's need for satisfaction rather than actually entering the center of the seventh sense, if you understand me. But it's very close. So that's number one. When you take your information from your soul, and this is why I'm changing it as slightly different than inspiration. What it does, it has to come up from your soul into your heart. But your heart is in two parts. It's got the human side, which is what I call the there love, wanting everything to be better, trying to make everything better, when in actual fact, if it wasn't interfered with, you'd learn a lot more. And then you have what I call the universal love, which sometimes can be hard, sometimes can be cold, and not everybody receiving it is very happy about it, but it always gives you what you need. So that is a form of intuition. But I think intuition is a combination of when this comes up into your throat chakra. The logical brain, it's the 5 physical senses. Then there is the almost intuitive brain based on a belief. And that comes down as well. So we've now got it into the throat. And then if you were to then draw a line from your soul up to the throat, you would find it was exactly all the same length, because this is your communication. At the communication, and this is so important for everybody, you don't have to be able to talk like I can. You don't have to be able to do any of those things, because this information coming up from your seventh sense, from your soul, can also go down through your hands. And this is what makes the most brilliant musicians, painters, sculptors, needlecraft people, everything to do with the hands. It's what makes the most effective healers. It's coming through the hands. If we can stop it from getting sometimes into this belief part of the brain, then our human side won't tell us we can't do it. And that's, I think, where your bravery comes in. It's even though logically and on past experience, you know this is going to hurt, you still go forward. That is a very important spiritual journey part too.
Oh, never give up.
Yeah,
Oh,
never give up. No. I've got on the side of me here, I've got that poem, "Don't Quit," in the whole form there. Yes.
Yeah, I've seen, me and Chris have seen that, and life, we are a mirror as well, aren't we, Pauline? We are
Always.
a mirror to the universe. So the challenges and everything that we are facing is for our benefit, it's for our growth, and we should always stay humbled, show gratitude every day that everything's happening for our benefit, for our growth. We are what we don't heal, we mirror out to the universe, we transmute, don't we? Can we do that? Does that happen?
But there's one other thing that I feel is important. We have to then understand that what we put out to the universe is not for us and not for the person we're talking to. It's actually an energy that will go into the environment and the atmosphere. And whatever we think, as long as it is beneficial, and I will not use the word negative and positive because that's what makes a battery work. It's what is adverse, if it's going out, can then cause a little bit of destruction. But if it is beneficial, not just to yourself, but just a beneficial thought. On a Monday night, there is one group of us, and we hug Earth. We don't do anything else. We don't find anything. We don't put thoughts in. We just allow our love for peace and harmony for all living things, not just on earth, even our, if you want to call them enemies, they're not, but you know what I mean, even those that are trying to shut us down. If we can put out a lovely balanced energy of peace and harmony, we get harmonic balance. And harmonic balance is actually the song and the sound of the universe.
Yeah.
So it can go on beyond that. So as soon as we get past the law of paradox and we start looking at that manifestation, by working with that, we know it's ongoing. We know that it will go past the edge of our universe because there are other universes. There is also the fact that for balance, all the children being born now, unlike us, where we had to find out what our soul wanted and go down that journey, they already come with their mind made up. They know what their soul purpose is. And you see it with some of the youngsters these days. They're doing the most amazingly positive things. And sadly, because we have to have destruction as well as creation, we also see young ones doing destructive things too. What we do have to be careful of is not criticizing all of it. They may be doing their soul's purpose.
Yes.
You see, if we just create and create, where do all those things that are being created go? Somebody has to chomp them up. We desperately need our refuse people. They're wonderful people. We definitely need, and this happens on a different level, even on a soul level. Yes, it's a bit hard to take in, and maybe people listening to this might shout at me, but that's what I believe. And it's only because I have seen it happening with the people I know, and because I've been blessed to go in places where technically I shouldn't be able to go, that it's possible for me to say this in a positive way, or should I say a beneficial way to others.
I think it's important as well that everybody plays a role, that we've all come back, and like you said before, we're not here to question. The human side says you are on the wrong path, and we don't have the right to say that. And this is why it comes in: never judge anybody. The politicians, the destructive people that have come back, and Chris mentions it often with the tarot card. You have the tower that is tumbling down. In order to create a new earth, the old belief system, the old rubbish needs to be tipped away. And certain souls have come back to, like you said, Pauline, to play that role.
Exactly.
And this is why we have to be very careful not to step in, keep boundaries with people, don't step in other people's pathways and things like that. And me and Chris have had to learn that, and people have had to learn that with us as well, that we, you have to be so strong. This is my divine purpose. This is what I've come back to do, and don't judge. Never ever judge anybody. Never.
Exactly. It is very interesting too when I think about it. The one thing that having been without money, having had a gambling husband, having known what that's like, I have two things there. One is I'm still tempted to buy something just before something else runs out, in case, I'm without. That's I'm working on. But the other one that is so important is that when I had got 20 odd years ago a following, there was 2,500 people listening to me as an audience. I had got queues and queues, much longer, Stephen, than the one you was in, around me in different places. I could have gone down that road because it was bringing money in. Instead, I did follow, and yes, it was courageous, I did follow it, did end up with my, as I say, gambling husband, lost house and everything. But that didn't ever stop me from my soul feeling satisfied, despite all of that. And despite the painful periods that you go through when anything's like that, you still end up by deep inside, there is that one thing that says, but this is still the right thing. And as long as you can do that, as long as you can take that deep breath and say, I am, and that I am is coming from your soul, not just the little I am because other people have told you to say it, but the one that really resonates like a didgeridoo, really, that sort of vibrates very, very strongly with your body.
Yeah, and just as I'm listening here, I just feel it's so good for those who are going to be perhaps struggling at the moment to find who they are, struggling on their pathway. And something I'll say quite often that I've just found in my experience is that the greatest teacher you'll ever find is the one right inside of here.
Absolutely. Go lower down, Chris. Go lower down. It's not in
Yeah,
your heart, darling. It's down in your soul.
yeah, you're right.
Okay?
And I feel that's a huge thing that's been unraveling, really. I'd say it may be longer, but certainly the last 10 years. Uh,
It'll
I
be from
remember,
birth. It'll be
yeah,
from birth. You just haven't gone that far enough.
yeah, just a lot more people coming into that realization of moving away from the age of the guru a little bit and coming more
Absolutely.
into their inner self. I feel that's
Absolutely.
that's a huge
Very
part.
important. Very
Yeah.
important.
And I feel when yourself and Stephen were talking there, I felt it coming up in myself. This of not interfering in other. We're not here to change other people,
No,
and it sometimes we can feel we want to do it out of compassion, or we feel it, but it's not. Actually, by interfering, could be more detrimental to
it is
ourselves and
that.
to other people.
Yes, when we interfere, we're using human love instead of cosmic love. And if we interfere, we are breaking. Now, I'm not going to go down this one here, but we would be breaking the first law, first cosmic law, because we would be trespassing. And that breaks the first cosmic law of free choice.
And sometimes you can
Yeah.
entrap yourself in karma with them as well, can't you? You can
Absolutely.
fall
I'm glad
into
you
their
said
karma.
it.
Yeah, this is. I'd love to hear, Pauline. Actually, I feel Stephen brought up a great subject there of karma, karmic law. Your view on that, and that role in our incarnation, even as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge subject. So to do it in just a moment or two is not really, but just let me put my, if not my spin, my understanding of it. I usually say to someone who is a skeptic, I love skeptics coming to me. I really do. And I usually say to them, do you believe in a life after death? The majority of them will say yes. Not all, but the majority. And if they do say yes, I will then say, then surely you must believe in a life before birth. So if you believe in a life before birth, then because your soul doesn't go into your body until it is sure that the physical frame that it's going to enter is going to be good for the soul, then at that point, and only at that point, it brings with it all the experiences you have ever had since your soul's life began. So we've got the one where our life began, which started with the fusion of the mother and father, and then the soul came in. And as we go looking for peace and trying to change our world, we tend to start with the soul rather than with the biological parents. if we have experienced a life in whatever form, wherever, where we did break one of the cosmic laws, where we did upset someone else, where we did cause, intentionally rather than unintentionally, pain to another soul's being, then that will be there to be rubbed out like an eraser. You just rub it. But it's got to be balanced, because the whole of all the universes together, the whole of creation is a balance. So we have some more sitting in what I call negative light. Those are the blackmailers. Those are the ones that want to interfere, but they're really doing it as in their heads for the good of all. That's negative light. Or we have positive light, which can actually, if you go too far down that road, can blind you. Then we have also positive dark, which is really good. That's where paradox comes in. Or we go down also to negative dark, and that is where we have wars and destruction that shouldn't happen. So there are areas where too much energy in one of those quarters, and you've got your yin yang symbol to prove that, then we do have some kind of hiccup. But because our soul has in it all the memories that the soul has ever experienced since it was born, inevitably there's going to be things in there that we didn't do 100% correct. So for me, karma is purely a balance of what has been. It can be in this lifetime. It's not as usual, but it can be. But it can be something that we brought with us. It can be an answer to some of the people who are born in a shape or in a state that's unhealthy. But one of the nice things is you can have a different kind of karma. You can actually have a karma where you allow yourself, or your soul allows the body, to not be as good as it should be, because someone else needs to look after it for their karma to be taken away. So, there's two sides to karma in that way. So that's my interpretation of karma. And nobody ever has to believe what I say unless it feels right in their gut.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I'd like to actually ask you, Pauline, as you shared your insight, is a little bit more of a look into the work you're actually conducting now. I know Stephen, he actually got one of your books when he had the session with you at the Mind, Body, and Spirit event, and there was actually, I'll tell you something a little bit funny in between. I thought it was quite amusing, and this is a little bit in context of this conversation, because everything vibrates to energy. And
True?
Stephen was very drawn to have this session that Pauline was offering. And he came over and he said, "You must go and see this lady, Chris. You must go and see her." And about 10 minutes, and I walked around the corner, and this queue was so long. And I said, "I'm just not going to get." But on the day, he bought one of your books that you offer. So maybe if you could just share with our listeners a little bit of an insight with the work you're involved in now, currently, in conducting day to day.
Okay. Mostly I am sort of in this, not this room, because I have a room downstairs where I talk to people and where I do what I call inherited memory clearings. And that is something that people could book in for, because anybody can do it, but they do need to know it can only be done once, and well, twice, because you have two parents, but but mostly you can only do it that once. So whatever I do, it's as brief as I possibly can. Usually a bit like you experienced, Stephen, when you had your auric balance. It didn't take long. but you got exactly what you wanted in a very short space of time.
Absolutely.
After that particular session at the Temple of Light, I really realized that it was time for me to come back and do those. So what I now need to know is within me, so I don't have to travel very far because of time. I would like to do more of those kind of sessions, or be invited to different places where I can do something like that with a small talk. So that's where I'm definitely going forward with. Mostly, however, it is with the books. And the books are quite succinct. They're not wordy, and they cover all the aspects of life, both for the soul on all 7 levels. And I think that's important. So yes, I have got books that people can just, through PayPal or through Nationwide is a special account that I have for my business. They can just buy, and we will definitely send them through the post. There's no problem there. The other thing that I would like to do is, if anybody felt that they have done a lot of their spiritual work, but now they're at a point where they need to understand why it's not moving forward, usually because of something that they inherited before they did their soul journey, then please contact me. And if there is room and I've got time, you're more than welcome to have this session with me with one of those. What else am I doing? I do something that are very special, and they're called the alignments. We have an energy alignment just being done in Sweden now, and in October, the emotion alignment. And here in Britain, but unfortunately, if you haven't done the energy alignment, you can't take this one. But in April, we will be having a physical alignment, which is really good, because all those things like the energy of money and your physical bodies and all the things that you get upset and hung up about, it goes away. And again, once you've done an alignment, you can't ever do it again, because you're clear of it. You're clear of those adverse energies. So I have a series of those going on as well. One final one, because it does apply to what we've been talking about with the little, what can I say, with the little picture of the world and peace. What I do is the most extraordinary 4-day course called Environmental Harmony. You use a technique there. You can sit at home. You can actually, from what the book that you learn and all the information that you have from that 4 days, if somebody at the other side of the world say, please, can you help me? You can use this technique. You can use the book, the technique, and then they're saying, what have you done? I feel different already. Instantaneous healing. So it's one of those. It was these courses, alignment and environmental balancing, and that they were brought into materialization around 1970, because they were always thought of as being necessary for the future. But you see, the future is now, so we can use them immediately. And I did meet the person who did all that through the spiritual healers, the Federation of Spiritual Healers, way down in Kent. So that was another one that was meant to be. And so we have those. They were for the future. They are for the future, and we have them. So yes, again, on my website, you will be able to look up dates and things like that.
Well, I know I'll be having a look and maybe booking in for a couple of treatments with you, Pauline. Amazing.
You're more than welcome.
It'll be amazing to connect with you again in the physical. But what I was found really interesting when you were talking about And there is that toxic side in healing as well, isn't there, where people say, oh, I need healing all the time, I need to come. And sometimes as healers, you've got to say, no, you've received what you've received. You don't need to be realigning. You don't need to be doing. It's again the toxic, the mind side that comes in all the time. It's very nourishing to speak to yourself who sort of got that same knowledge and teachings, where a lot of places, you know, keep coming back, and you end up falling into the rescuing victim side, where really people don't realize once you're in the I am power, you're a sovereign being, a powerful being of light and love.
But the two of you, let me just jump in here. The two of you are what I would call the rainbow bridge. You see, people still have to come from that level. They need to go from that level before maybe seeing me personally, because then they won't have enough life experience to build on. And I have no compunction if someone keeps coming back for the same thing time and time. I would say, just look back on the notes, because I'm not going to do this with you. I really do say that to some people who I feel are using me, which is a form of abuse. And then I will say, thank you, I love you to bits, but until you do something for yourself, I can't take you to the next level. So you're quite right there, Stephen, quite right. And the same with your group is different, because you've got each other to support each other. So it's not the one person having to be uplifting, if you know what I mean.
It's very true. We're very sort of blessed, I so you'd say, in that sense of myself and Stephen can always give each other support in them moments. But I feel what's been said there is very relevant to the here and now. Actually, I feel everything that's been said in this podcast is absolutely relevant to the here and now. And I'm sure many of our listeners, we hope you found this chat really nourishing. I want to thank Pauline for sharing your time, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of the Collective Awakening podcast here. That this is actually our little take two. We've had a few technical things that have gone on, so I want to say, not only is Pauline's information, insight, and knowledge very interesting, but I'll say she's very formidable as well. So we've made this happen through determination, and we would absolutely love to do. I'm sure there's, if not one episode, a couple, many more episodes that we'd like to do with you sometime in the future to share more of your insights.
Absolutely, that would be lovely. And the nice thing to do would be to take a theme. So
yes,
that
I
we
agree.
just look at a podcast on removing fear or something like that.
Yes, that'll be a great podcast, Chris. Removing fear.
Yes, yes, yes. We're good once we get that idea, we run with it. So let's run with it.
Paulie, would you be interested in, maybe we can do it in person? Maybe we can travel up to yours.
Absolutely, no problem.
That'll be
Amazing.
great.
Amazing.
Yes, of course you can.
So I just want to thank you so much, Pauline, for the time you shared with us. Some wonderful knowledge, some wonderful experiences. I feel that always speaks to so many of us that we can resonate with. And I hope it resonates with everybody who's listening or watching. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast, for coming together, for being part of the Collective Awakening. And from myself and Stephen, we want to send our love until we all speak again very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you both.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.